You ever have one of those days where you think you're just going to relax, breathe some fresh mountain air, maybe watch the sun come up, sip coffee, hear nothing but birds and your own heartbeat? And then wham, you get a brick through your window with a note that says, "Get out before the view is ruined forever." Yeah, that was my welcome to paradise. I always figured when I finally packed up my life in Chicago and headed west, I'd be leaving the drama behind, leaving behind the nosy neighbors, the passive-aggressive mail about my lawn, all the whispers about property values. I wanted peace. I wanted my own hill, 5 acres of sky and silence. Nobody telling me what color my shutters should be. No rules but my own. I wanted to build this place I'd dreamed of since college, sleek, open, energy-efficient big windows for the stars, an observatory up top, where the roof itself seemed to just open and let the night pour in. I'd spent years working toward that, and let me tell you, those first 2 weeks, they were perfect. I'd wake up before the sun, wander out with my thermos, lean against a half-built frame, watch fog slide over the pine trees way down below. The nearest neighborhood, Crestwood Heights, sat lower on the slope, a row of houses that all looked the same, yards, like manicured golf courses, the kind of place where people probably alphabetize their Tupperware. Me, I was on the ridge above them. That literally my land sits outside their boundaries. No HOA, no covenants, not a single clause saying what I can or can't do. Just the wind, my blueprints, and maybe a passing hawk to keep me company. That's why when that fancy SUV rolled up my dirt road and this woman stepped out like she was inspecting a crime scene, I almost laughed. She introduced herself with a smile that had more porcelain than warmth, said she was the president of the Crestwood Heights Homeowners Association. Karen. Of course. The type hair so perfect it probably has a trust fund, sunglasses bigger than her actual head, voice sweet enough to give you cavities, but with this edge that said, "I'm used to getting my way." She talked about community standards and protected views and how the residents were concerned. Apparently my new home was going to pop up over their skyline and ruin their unbroken view of the valley. I told her as politely as a person can while covered in sawdust that this wasn't Crestwood Heights. It never was. Never would be. No amount of meetings or committees or neighborhood newsletters would change that. She smiled tighter, like her face wanted to flinch but didn't dare. She left with a suggestion about blending with our aesthetic. I gave her my best "I'll get right on that" and went back to measuring steel beams. I figured, okay, maybe that's it. Weird neighbor, awkward conversation, moving on. Next morning I drove up the hill just before sunrise, planning to check the concrete, enjoy the cold, maybe pretend I was some kind of pioneer. Instead, I found my access road blocked with trash bags, broken cinder blocks, even a dead Christmas tree. Seriously, the thing was still tangled in lights, the saddest symbol of joy you've ever seen. My stomach dropped. Then I got angry. Then honestly, I just had to laugh, because who the hell does that? Who sneaks out at night just to dump garbage and sabotage somebody else's dream? I scrambled over the mess, found more concrete chunks tossed around like someone had tried to start their own demolition derby. But here's the thing. I'm not a complete idiot. Before I broke ground, I put up cameras, simple, wireless, nothing fancy, but they work. So I checked the feed. 3 guys, matching uniforms, Crestwood logo right there on their sleeves. They moved with that swagger of people who really truly believe they own the world. I called the sheriff, filed the report, handed over the footage. And as the sun came up, coloring the valley gold, I realized something. They weren't scared my house would ruin their view. They were scared because I didn't answer to them. That was a crime in their world. Then came the letter, thick, official enough legal jargon to make your eyes cross. The Crestwood Heights Homeowners Association was demanding I lower my house by 2 floors, repaint it to match their taupe color palette, and pay them almost $500,000 for aesthetic damages. I hadn't even put the windows in yet. They claimed, get this, that my place violated their communal scenic harmony because their charter said the view from Crestwood Heights was shared intangible property. They even called it visual incursion. You got to give them points for creativity, right? I took the letter to a friend, Riley, a lawyer who eats HOA charters for breakfast. She read it, barely blinked, said, "They're full of it. Legally, ethically, cosmically, you're in the clear. Their rules stop at their border." She drafted a cease and desist, told me to get back to work and not lose sleep over beige paint. But that wasn't the end. Crestwood came back with mediation, an offer that felt more like a ransom note. If I stopped building and attended their little design review, maybe, just maybe, they'd allow me to stay. Or if I really wanted peace, I could sell them part of my lot for a nominal fee. I nearly choked on my sandwich reading that. We responded officially legally with enough documentation to bury them in paperwork. I put up a brand new sign at the edge of my property, private land, not subject to Crestwood HOA. The next morning, someone poured beige paint all over it. Crestwood beige. You can't make this stuff up. Then, like some medieval drama, a resolution appeared taped to my gate declaring the HOA had expanded their boundaries just like that, and now my land was theirs too. They drew a big red line around my lot on a map and sent me an invoice for thousands of dollars in membership dues. My jaw actually dropped. Riley laughed so hard she nearly spilled her coffee. This isn't just bullying, it's attempted annexation. She moved fast-filed motions, demanded an injunction, called them out for fraud. But something about it all felt off. Too coordinated, too personal. I started digging county records, HOA meeting minutes, whatever I could find. And there it was, a pattern. They'd done this before. Fake vote signatures from people who'd moved away, even from a woman who'd passed years before. The HOA's president. Her husband owned the construction company that got all the beautification contracts after owners voluntarily left. This wasn't about views, this was a shakedown. I sent everything to Riley. She said, "We're going nuclear." Filed for fraud investigation. That night, someone drove stakes into the ground along my fence line, marking new boundaries. A brick crashed through my window after midnight, note attached, "Get out before the view is ruined forever." I didn't go back to bed. I reviewed the cameras, caught a dark figure in a Crestwood uniform lobbing the brick and running. I called the sheriff again. This time they sent 2 deputies. This was getting real. The next day, 2 guys in khaki uniforms showed up, claimed they were there to inspect my lot line compliance for visual elevation ordinances. I told them if they so much as aimed a laser at my house, I'd call the cops for trespassing. They left muttering about non-compliant behavior. By sundown, I had private security installing more cameras, infrared sensors, backup batteries, the works. Good thing, too. 2 nights later, caught another landscaper trying to sabotage my geothermal cooling system. I let him try, called the sheriff, let the cameras get everything. Inside his bag, tools, gloves, and a compound that, if poured into my cooling system, would have destroyed it. Now, Riley wasn't just filing for an injunction. She was going after the whole board for harassment, sabotage, conspiracy. But they kept coming, more mail, more threats, more fake fines. I stopped reacting. Started playing chess, not checkers. That's when Riley brought in a journalist, a guy named Nathan, who dug up HOA corruption before. Nathan did some digging of his own. Turns out Crestwood had a history, 5 other properties bordering their line, all forced out after months, sometimes years of compliance disputes. Always the same: harassment, sabotage, fake legal threats, then a sale to an LLC linked to, you guessed it, Randall, the president's husband. Nathan published his findings. The story exploded. Suddenly people were talking, radio, TV, other homeowners. Some neighbors apologized, brought me evidence, shared screenshots from secret Crestwood Facebook groups, even posts where Karen bragged about teaching outsiders a lesson. But Crestwood didn't back down. Karen doubled down, called the county, filed new complaints, sent a real inspector this time. I met him at the gate, handed over every engineering report, every survey. Told him unless you've got a judge's signature, you're not coming in. He left. After that, it became a siege. Utility trucks with no badges tried to audit my water lines, turned out to be a fake company. Power cut in the rain. Water tasted wrong, someone dumped chemicals into my geothermal reservoir. At that point, I stopped sleeping. Upgraded every camera, every lock. Bought a drone with thermal imaging. Anyone came near my house, I'd know. Meanwhile, Riley filed an emergency restraining order. Nathan published Part 2 map timeline proof that this was Crestwood's MO. My inbox blew up, tips from people inside the HOA, anonymous scans, memos ranking problem properties. I was number 1. Then came the box, no return address, left at my gate. Inside, shredded documents, a burnt USB, and a photo of my house under construction with a big red X drawn over the roof. Message received. You ever get that feeling you're not just building a house, but fighting for your own right to exist? That was me. But if there's one thing I know, it's how to build for pressure. Then Karen made a mistake. She held a community picnic, stood up in front of everyone, pointed to an aerial map with my lot circled and said, "Clear as day, we will expand if we must." Someone caught it on video, sent it to me. We filed it into the case. After that, everything unraveled. More documents, leaked emails, internal budget sheets, lists of planned acquisitions. Found proof Randall's cousin accessed county zoning records, tried to mess with my permits. At that point, even the judge got fed up, set a court date, demanded Crestwood explain themselves under oath. Then came the last straw. My drone alarm went off motion in 3 zones. I saw 3 figures moving up the slope trying to cut power lines. Called the sheriff. They caught one landscaping supervisor for Crestwood backpack full of sabotage tools and a map of my irrigation. Riley filed for a full injunction. The judge granted it. No Crestwood member could come near my land, talk to me, send me mail, nothing. But the final blow was from an ex-board member resigned 6 months back who sent me a folder, recordings, meeting minutes, voice memos of Karen threatening members, Randall bragging about bleeding out people until they sold. Proof they'd planned this from day one. Court day came. I wish I could tell you I was cool and calm, but my mouth tasted like pennies, my hands shook. The judge, older, steady, clearly tired of the HOA's games, listened as Riley laid out everything: my deed, their fake expansion, the sabotage, the video of Karen admitting their plan, even the spreadsheet with budget lines for deterrence. Crestwood's lawyer tried some poetry about aesthetic rights and community cohesion, even pulled out a study that said a disrupted view could raise your blood pressure. The judge wasn't having it. He called their whole act what it was: a scam. He granted my injunction, referred the case for criminal investigation, even recommended fraud charges. Karen went pale. Randall just clenched his jaw and stared at the wall. The fallout was quick. The news spread. Randall was arrested. Karen got indicted for fraud and conspiracy. The HOA board resigned. A court trustee took over. Half the neighborhood wanted the HOA dissolved. The other half just hid. And me, I finished my house. 3 floors, timber and glass, and a rooftop observatory. No beige in sight. No one telling me where I could look or how high I could build. I even put up a little monument by my driveway facing Crestwood Heights. Simple stone, nothing flashy. It says, freedom is not an eyesore and neither is light. Nobody will ever block my view again. So let me ask you, where do you draw the line between protecting your home and standing up to people who think rules only matter when they benefit them? Where does community stop and control begin? I'd love to hear what you think. What would you have done? Have you ever gone toe-to-toe with a neighborhood bully? Tell me your story.